Good Monday morning. How we all doing out there? Not so great. Who's got some love? Who's doing great? Somebody's got to get started with a win. Who's got something? No positivity going on over the weekend?
Other than celebrating my son's 18th birthday, so all of my kids have made it to adulthood.
That is something to celebrate, Amber. Congratulations. I love it. For myself, just some health um, gratitude. We had bringing my son off to camp yesterday, and I'm leaving, backing out of my driveway, and I've got a police car screaming down the road. No idea what that's about. We don't really have too many police cars screaming down, and so bring them to camp. We come back. I'm going for my evening walk after dinner, and one of my neighbors, who's like a long time friend of mine. I've known him since I got into the real estate business. I went to my first NAR conference with this individual. So we've had a long relationship. He was one of my mentors early on when I got in. And hey, he was sitting out on his front porch, and I had my AirPods in, so I'm surprised I heard him. But he invites me over to the porch, and we're just chit-chatting. And then the neighbor comes over, and he starts talking about, oh my God, how are you guys all doing? And I'm thinking, what the hell happened? Well, his granddaughter stopped breathing that morning, just stopped breathing. And he's got doctors on either side of him. Neither one of them were home. So I guess it was just scrambling. That police officer was on a 911 call. I guess the child had a fever seizure, I guess it's called. I guess it's not something to be too concerned about, but it's a 1-year-old little baby, and she was there smiling and happy as could be. While I was there, you would have never known, but it's just interesting to know. Like, it could seem like one thing, he didn't mention anything to me, but all of that had transpired that day. So you just never know where you're catching somebody and how you're going to respond to situations. So just grateful for the health of my kids today. The message that I had that I wanted to share was with regards to a poem written by a German-Swiss poet, Hermann Hesse, that I came across recently. And I'd never heard this, but there's a line in the poem that says, we're not going in circles, we're going upwards. That our path is actually a spiral. And I found a pretty cool illustration of like how to think about this, because I think a lot of times we just feel like we are, we're going in circles. So I don't know, for those of you who can see the screen, just thought this is just a great way to think about it, because I think oftentimes we think we're this path on the left. It just seems like we're not making any progress. We're stuck in a rut. But I think the right depiction here is what's really going on, of how it actually is. It's difficult to see it. So, especially in this industry, man, you can put in a lot of reps, you can show a lot of houses, you can write a lot of offers, and you got nothing to show for it. But I do believe when you really think back and you look, it's those actions, those conversations, those offers that you wrote that make you a better agent for the next deal, the next offer that you write, the next conversation that you have. So I just, figure we get the week started with this message. If you're in a rut, but you feel like you're doing the things, I do believe that the spiral upwards is the true path that you're on, and just hang in there, and and keep a fighting. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts to add to this one. Jen.
So when you said spiral, that's what I was thinking. But then I started to think about how I might be moving up, with a spiral for some things. But then if I really think about, how I'm doing, I'm not always even with everything. Some things I have to work on more so. So I started to think about my spiral as more like turning into a big knot and kind of, or at least looking like one, because there's one area that is kind of staying level. So just kind of working on whatever that is, and really trying to dissect why am I having a hard time with this. I feel like for us with real estate, but I feel like I started to think about other people. I know somebody who does this with the relationships. It's like they want a good relationship, but they always go for the wrong person, and they're the only one that doesn't see it. So you have to get just like whatever that is, just examine what is it, what am I doing, what's wrong, what do I have to change? Who do I have to listen to? Who can see this that whatever it is that I can't see, that's going to help me get, make this spiral level so that everything's functioning in my life,
Yeah. 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 And I would even say that sometimes the spiral can be going down, and that one you got to jump off of. So I think you got to know, definitely the difference. And that's where the journaling and the reflection time and the quiet time to really think through some of the stuff comes into play. So, has anybody heard of, or is anybody using an app called Waking Up? Anybody using this? Anybody using it? It's by Sam Harris. Okay. One of the guys that I follow was just promoting it pretty heavily. I just downloaded it over the weekend. I haven't even started to listen to it. But apparently it's a meditation app, but I guess gives a lot of the science behind what's going on, and it kind of walks you down the journey to maybe make you understand a little bit more about what's going on. So I'm excited, I'll report back on this app and in my meditation journey. Anybody else have something on this topic? All right, let's transition over into some real estate. What's going on in your real estate world? What you learn over the weekend? What do you need help with? Let's put something on the table. If nobody has anything, one of the things that I had jotted down was a question regarding what can I do regarding a seller that contacts me about listing their property, but they're already listed with another agent. They're just not happy with that situation. And this does happen. I thought I'd just put some clarity around what you're able to do. It's in our code of ethics. I want you guys to feel comfortable when this scenario arises. So the first thing is, it's got to clearly be an initiation from the seller. We cannot contact anybody where we initiate somebody that is under contract with an exclusive listing agreement. That is interference with the contract. You could lose your license for that. So we do not want to be reaching out. If they reach out to us, hey, I'm unhappy with my current situation. I'd like to know what my options are for my next agent, not my options on how to get out of this contract. Right? Hey, if you're not happy with your current contract, you should talk to your agent about that, or the services that are being provided. You could hire an attorney that you could talk to. All I want to do is talk to you about what I could do for you. Here's the services that I could provide when your contract is over. And the last piece would be, can I get a document signed, a listing agreement signed? And would that be interfering? And so that would not be. If you can't start going and I don't know, helping them stage or helping them with their photos or start marketing yourself. You could get a listing signed if the listing agreement ends July 31st and you want to get one dated for August 1st. For 6 months past that, you're okay to do that, but you could not do anything more than get a contract signed. You can't start working on that file. That would be considered interference. So does anybody have any questions regarding this scenario? Anybody want to talk about a situation that arose for them where they went through this? Corey.
Yeah, there's a bunch of what ifs there that I just wanted to ask about.
Okay.
What if the seller doesn't know when it expires? Can we advise them how to find out? Is there somewhere we can find out? Or are we allowed to find out? Is there an exact date? Is there an exact date? Oh, okay.
Let's stop there. So there's no way for us to find out. The MLSs do not have this data displayed, so we would never know when a contract is about to expire. If they don't know, we should just advise them, hey, if you're not sure when your contract expires, you should reach out to your agent and ask for a copy of the listing agreement that you signed. So that would be my recommendation there. What's the next one, Corey? You're muted still, buddy.
Sorry. When is the exact timeline, or is there an exact timeline of when you can sign an agreement with the new person?
At any point, as long as it is dated post the date that their current one expires.
Okay.
So they could be midway through their contract, not happy. Hey, if you're not happy, you should take that up with your listing agent or talk to an attorney about what your options are. I'd be happy to sign a listing agreement dated a date past when yours expires. And I'd be happy to tell you how the services that I'm going to perform if I was to take over the listing.
And you can go and tour the house if they invite you over.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, as long as it's initiated by them, right? It's got to be initiated by them. KB.
One other thing that came up over the few times this has happened in the past month is listing photos. We don't have the right to the photos that are in MLS. So you cannot take those photos and put it back on the market with the same photos unless you have permission, written permission from the other agent and seller. So my recommendation would be is if you are going to be planning a date that it's going to go live, give yourself a little bit of time to get some photos done on the property.
Typically what I've seen done with photos is you're going to pay the previous agent for those photos. Hey, I know you probably spent some money, maybe I'll compensate you 50%, or, they might say, hey, I want the full reimbursement if you want to use these. Lohith.
So just to confirm, you can, if they initiate it, you can go meet with them while they're under agreement for a listing and get a listing agreement signed for the date that their current listing agreement expires.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. You just can't do, that would be it. That's it. You've got an agreement. You can't do another thing with that client until that date hits. So my recommendation is probably not get it for the date after, right? Maybe you need a week in there. So the day after it expires, you go, you meet, we talk more details. Our listing agreement was dated for a week, so I got a week in there to work with it. Any other questions around this one? Okay. One of the other things that kind of comes up quite a bit with regards to relisting a property is how do I get the days on market back to 0? And so I believe it's just MLS dependent. They'll have a number of days that it would have to be off market. I want to say MLS PIN might be 60 days for it to be quote unquote a new listing. But if you just relist that property, it's going to have those days on market. I don't know if anybody's got any experience with that or wanted to comment, hey, I did that and this is what happened. And I just don't want you to think that it's going to look like a new listing. It's not going to. I think, go ahead.
Yeah, so I ran into this with one of mine. So it's 60 days, or you can change the listing in some way. So making the street name all capitals was what the recommendation I got was. I mean, we just went back on within 60 days and just he explained it to, people if they ask. But I was told, yeah, you can wait 60 days and then relist, or you can make some sort of change to the thing that would allow the MLS not to realize that it's the same property. So like capitalizing all of the street letters.
Yeah, I have heard that you can finagle the address in some way, and it might show up as new. So I don't know that is a, I don't know what the ethical, pushback could be on that stuff, but I don't know if there's anything in the MLS rules and regs that says you can't do it. But I don't know if anybody's come across anything. I don't know if MLS has ever reached out to anybody to say, hey, you're just trying to beat the system, we're changing it, or anybody experience anything like that. Justin.
So I recently had a listing that we ended up canceling about 4 months in. And along the way, like towards the end, again, 4 months for this market isn't crazy, especially considering that community. It was new construction. Every resale in that community was way overpriced. And, we were working towards those reductions, but she wanted to pin the blame and everything on me. But what I was finding out towards the end was there was actually another agent in her ear telling her everything that they thought I was doing wrong. So whether the agent knew that she was coming to me and saying that is a completely different issue. But she would tell me, like, this is what this person said. She wouldn't tell me who it was, but that I should have done this and I should have done that. And it's all stuff that I had discussed with her very, very early on. She just doesn't remember anything. But what ended up happening was we canceled the listing in this exact situation. Like they ended up relisting and it said day 1 on market. So they were still kind of getting the traction. I mean, it's still listed. It's not going anywhere, but it's still something that I was kind of curious about myself because just looking at the listing, I can't see that there was anything different. They refreshed their photos and everything like that, but as far as the address, like you guys are saying, or anything like that, I didn't notice that anything was different. So I was just wondering how to do that, because if we're working for expireds too, working on that side of the fence, if we're taking on a listing, and I mean, I would be really curious on where that falls with the ethics thing. I mean, if it's a rule they prefer us not to, then obviously, we don't want to go around doing that. But in the same sense, are we breaking rules doing that,
How long was it off for, Shaston, before it came back on?
Like a couple weeks. It was definitely not 60 days.
Yeah. So your MLS could be different. That's the first thing.
Stellar might be 30 days if I remember, but
It wasn't
I
even
have to
30.
look it up.
Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't even 30 days. And I don't know what you mean by different, Steve, but his maybe by rules, but it was
No,
they're both
I'm
on
meaning
Stellar.
like, right, but like in Mass, like MLS pin, I'm pretty sure it's 60, and I think Pat just confirmed that, but it could be 14 days in Stellar, right? And so if they had waited 14 days, then relisted, maybe it's back on market 1 day.
Okay, maybe
So you need to know what Stellar's rules are to qualify as a new listing.
awesome. I'm gonna have to look into that. Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing I will tell you guys is 99% of the time, if you have got a listing and the seller is coming to you looking to cancel, they're looking to relist with another agent. They're not just looking to actually not market the property. So what we typically want to do is say, hey, I understand that you don't want to sell your property anymore. Why don't we'll just put it in withdrawn status just in case you change your mind. And that's where they're going to say, oh, no. Or they might say, yeah, that's fine. Then they go and talk to that other agent. Okay, I'm out of that. And they're like, no, it's in withdrawn. I need you to cancel it, right? So now they're giving them that advice that you can't do. So they're going to come back and say now, oh, I need to cancel it. Oh, right. So if you're getting that type of a vibe, I don't want to have you guys working with sellers that don't want to be working with you. So, hey, I've always just said, hey, it sounds like you've got another agent that you probably want to work with, whether they want to admit it or not. Happy to release you out of my contract. I'd be looking for a 25, 30, 35% referral, whatever the case might be that you'd be looking for. Right. And so now, yep, we'll cancel so that they can relist, but I want a referral fee. I don't know if anybody else wants to kind of add to that, or if you've been through something similar But when you start hearing, I want to cancel, it's typically they've got an agent in their ear telling them that, like in Shaston's case. So we rarely would cancel without, getting some sort of a referral fee to another agent or something. Otherwise, we'll just withdraw it. Hey, no problem. You don't want to sell. We'll just withdraw the listing. Anybody want to add anything else to canceling, relisting? Okay. James.
Just to clarify on that, is that referral fee that you would ask for, is that something then that you had written into your original agreement with the buyer? That in the event that there was a cancellation or whatever, that you would have that option, or is that just something you're coming back and trying to negotiate with, cold in that situation?
No, this is something that you're coming back with. This wouldn't have been in the initial listing agreement, although you could add it. I don't see any issues with adding that.
Doesn't seem like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. But the reality is that, in order for them to cancel, they need your agreement as long as you've been doing your job. Right? If you've been doing your job, they can't just get out of the agreement. You'd have to let them out of it. And we let them out by doing a referral agreement. I will say the other thing that we are writing into our listing agreements is language that says, if you do decide that you don't want to sell this, you're going to compensate me for the marketing, right? You can't, because here's what happens sometimes is you spend, $750, $1,000, you get all this professional marketing, you're a month in, they don't want to sell the house anymore, right? So if that happens, hey, you got to reimburse me for the photo, the video, etc. So that is something that would definitely should be in your listing agreements.
Well, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Meg House.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. So I took a listing a couple months ago that was a relist. And one of the things the previous agent made very clear to my clients, my sellers now, was that if anyone came through the property during their contract period, within whatever was in their contract, whether it be 30 days, 60 days, that their company would be due the full, listing compensation that was part of their contract. So my clients asked the previous brokerage for a list of any party that would be subject to that fee.
So that's not my understanding, Meg. My understanding, and maybe different listing agreements are different, but my understanding is most listing agreements have language in them that says if you do not relist the property for an X number of days, and we can fill that in. Typically, I think it's going to be 180 days. If somebody that I introduced to the property ends up buying that property, I'm due a commission, right? So this prevents a seller from, the listing agreement is going to expire July 31st. We get an offer on July 30th. They say, no, we're not going to accept that. We wait for our listing agreement to expire. On August 1st, we go under contract with that buyer, trying to avoid the agent's commission. So that's when that 180 days would protect you. Except the language typically states that if the property were to get relisted, the new agent is due the commission. The only thing that the original agent may be due is the difference in commission, right? So what I mean by this is, let's say agent one had the property listed at 5%, pick a number. And then the seller decides, the offer comes in July 30th, and he goes and lists with, to avoid your 180 days, relists with a ultra discount broker for $500. You would be due the difference between those two numbers. So that is my understanding. I believe that's the way our listing agreements read. And I don't know that there'd be anything that they could have put in their listing agreement that would be anything different. So those are my thoughts. I don't know if anybody else has had experience with this, but that's how that typically plays out at the end of the contract. Does that, Meg, make sense? Do you have a follow-up?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't think that previous agent would be doing anything unless you've listed it for less than what they had it listed for. Anybody else have a question regarding this? Ben.
What do you mean if you had it listed for less than what they had it for? Because
So
I thought that
let's-
once you had it listed with another agent, they're not due commission.
No, they're due the difference. If a buyer, so if they had it listed for 5 and you listed it for 3, the difference of 2, they could come back and ask for.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at our listing agreements, that's the language in there. It just prevents them from going and saying, from trying to beat your 180-day clause by saying, oh no, I relisted with another agent. So I don't owe you the money. Right. But I really, just went with a discount broker and paid $500 to try and get out of that fee. So it's the difference, which makes sense. I think that's fair to stop them from saying, oh, I relisted it. I don't owe you anything. Yep. James, did you have something, or your just hand is lingering?
Oh, my apologies.
All right. And Jen, did you have a follow-up?
I was just gonna say, how do you even find that out? What they're even asking for commission?
I guess the situation would have to be that you're going to have to file, something with the board. And at that point, you'd require a disclosure of the listing agreement. Hey, that's funny. That buyer came during my listing period. I see that they're the ones that closed on it. I think I'm due the difference. And so then the board, or, whatever governing body is going to handle that arbitration would demand a copy of the listing agreement.
Okay, so just to be clear, you're talking about it would have to be a buyer that came through.
Yes.
They would have to have some sort of, I guess, proof of that, right? Or
Yep.
they would made an offer the first time or something with the other agent, and then made an offer again with the new agent.
I don't even know you have to make an offer. I think the way that the agreement reads is, became made aware of the property during your listing period or something along those lines. Yep. So I don't even have to make an offer because, right, the guy could see the property on July 30th. So you did all the marketing. You get this buyer. Seller realizes, shit, my listing expires tomorrow. Why don't I just wait? Right? Even if they presented the offer, no, I don't want to accept it. Wait till August 1st. Now I'll accept it to try and beat. I see that there's language in there that says I have to relist. So I'll just relist with this guy. My buddy's an agent. I'll have him relist it for nothing. I'll throw him a couple of bucks. That's when the difference would come into play. All right. Any final questions or thoughts on these listing agreements? Okay. All right, guys, let's go crush our Monday. Let's get a great start to the week, and we will talk to you again tomorrow morning. Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.